Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I don't know if you can recognize, but it is me, Catherine. It's been quite a long time. Unfortunately, in February, at the beginning of February, I came down with COVID, and I was knocked down I quarantined for 5 days, and then I still didn't feel like myself for weeks afterwards. It was just absolutely awful. I do not wish that upon anybody. So please keep yourself safe and take your vitamins, do all that stuff. Wear your mask if you need to, because nobody deserves to go through that. But besides that, let's see what's been going on. My dogs have been driving me absolutely crazy. I think this weather is just getting to them. All they want to do is play in the snow and eat things that are inside. And I'm just kind of over it. They need their own yard to run in. So that's the goal. They need their own yard to run in so that they can stop running around the house and getting into mischief. Let me know if you have any dogs who like to eat articles of clothing, pens, and anything made of wood. Comment down below. What else? So me and my fiance are looking at some wedding venues coming up. That's really exciting. If you don't know anything about me, you can follow me on my personal Instagram. It's 123cat, C-A-T, 4, and you can kind of follow along with my life. I'm kind of boring, but I like to think that I like to think I'm funny. I like to think that I'm funny. If you don't think that I'm funny, I apologize, but I like to think that I'm funny. Now I'm just rambling because I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in so long. But yeah, that's really it. I have a few concerts to go to this, coming up few months. I'm very excited. But yeah, I hope that you, are sharing this with all of your friends and your family, your coworkers, your significant others, your parents, because I would really like to make something of this podcast. This has kind of been a dream of mine, and I really want it to take off and go somewhere. So without further ado, I have another murder case for you. So actually, this is going to be my first two-parter, because as I was taking the notes for this case, I realized that it is very long. There's just a lot that goes into it and a lot that happens after the fact. So I decided to cut it into two parts. So this is going to be the first part. So the case is the murder of Connie Dabate. And this does take place in Connecticut again. I have this episode, and then I think one or two after this that I'm planning. Yeah, I believe it's about one or two more after this one that will be taking place in Connecticut. And then if I can't find anything else, I'm going to start making my way throughout New England. But like I said in the first episode, or the second, I can't remember, I'm trying to base this off of primarily around where I live, which is Connecticut. And then I'm just going to kind of explore New England, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Maine, all that good stuff. Is New York considered New England? I don't think so. Anyways. All right, so this is the murder of Connie Dabate. So the story takes place in Ellington, Connecticut, which, fun fact, the only fun fact of probably this entire case, my cat actually is from Ellington, Connecticut. He was rescued out of a barn by my ex-boyfriend, so shout out to him, I guess. All right, so anyways, Connie was born in Connecticut in 1976 with 3 siblings. She graduated high school in 1995, and she graduated college in 1999. She went on to work in pharmaceutical sales. In 2003, at the age of 27, she married Richard Dabate. Connie's friends would say that they were a very strange couple, but no, not strange. I apologize. That they were a very strong couple and worked well together. I'm reading ahead of myself here. So actually on a Dateline episode, I don't know if you guys watch Dateline or listen to their podcast, very interesting. Her friends would say that Richard was just very polite, a thoughtful husband, made other families notice his love towards Connie. People can just tell that he really cared about her. Like if they were at a party, he would be the one to get up and bring her a plate of food and just be a gentleman. A lot of them would say. So apparently they were opposites, but that seemingly made their marriage stronger. Again, Connie's friend said that Connie was the more responsible of the couple. She was an active volunteer, she was a class mom, worked with the PTA, and just volunteered anytime a friend would ask her to. She was also the vice president of the Ellington Volunteer Ambulance Corps. She was always stepping in to help people whenever she can. People described her as having an effervescent personality. Love that for her. A local pastor said that people were just drawn to her. She was just a very nice and outgoing person. So Connie just sounds like a genuine person that people like to be around. And to be completely honest, we need more people like that in this world. As for Richard, people saw him as more of a clever, overgrown kid. According to his friends, he would make jokes and puns, he was quick on his feet, and he can just come up with a joke for every situation. One friend said that he was definitely an odd character. They would just say, well, Rick is Rick, that's just what he does. He was just a quirky guy. He did, however, have some credit issues, but besides that, him and Connie seemed very financially secure and were able to work through things like adults and as a couple. For work, Richard worked as a computer network administrator. They had 2 sons, and they lived in a very suburban neighborhood in Ellington, Connecticut. Now, all of this sounds great, but unfortunately, that kind of ends here. But these stories need to be told to keep the victims' names alive, so that way we can remember them for the people that they were before disaster happened. So, after being together for over a decade, Richard started having an affair. Only one of Richard's friends knew about the affair after he confided with him. So based on what I read, I don't think Connie knew about the affair when it was happening. She was, however, very unhappy in her marriage. It didn't seem like she confided in anyone about this. Even her close friends were unaware of her thoughts and feelings about her marriage. She just kind of kept this to herself. We know this because in her notes app on her phone, there was actually a memo titled, "Why I Want a Divorce." Self-explanatory. So basically, this was a pros and cons list, but really it was a cons and cons list because nothing in the note was anything other than why she should get a divorce. It was last updated in December of 2014, and she wrote that Richard took money from other bank accounts, ones that were not his. So he was committing felony. It also said that he was an unfit parent. He acted as if he didn't care for Connie. He wouldn't come home on time, and he would just act like a kid constantly. I can't imagine having to deal with that. This poor woman. So, according to this note, he took out a credit card in Connie's name. And we don't know if she knew about this next part, but we're going to assume that she didn't. But he ended up using the card and spent over $1,000 on flowers and dates with his girlfriend, the woman that he was having an affair with. She knew about him overspending, so while she was trying to keep the family afloat, Richard was spending tons of money on things she didn't even know about, like the flowers and the dates for his girlfriend, because, like I said, we don't think that Connie knew anything about this affair, because she never mentioned any of it in the notes app. And I feel like if she knew that there was an affair going on, she would have written that in her reasons of why she wanted a divorce. It is kind of a good thing that she made this note on her phone. Later on, investigators were able to see this note and find out all the things that were wrong in the marriage. Because again, she didn't tell anyone about it. It seemed like Connie was trying to talk herself into the decision, but she never got the chance, unfortunately, because 3 days before Christmas 2015, police received a signal from the home security system in the Dabate house at 10:16 a.m. 2 minutes later, at 10:18 a.m., Richard tried to call 911, but he misdialed. At 10:19 a.m., he got through. and when he spoke to the police, he sounded confused and was moaning in pain. Police arrived at 10:30 and immediately saw blood on the top of the basement stairs, trailing towards the kitchen. And this is where they found Richard. Richard was lying face down on the kitchen floor, and he was bound to a brown aluminum folding chair by zip ties. It was a very disturbing scene, the police were saying. The chair was on top of him, one hand was bound, both ankles were bound, and there was a zip tie around his neck securing him to the chair. Richard was moaning in pain, and he told the police that there was somebody still in the house. So the police called for backup, and one officer actually thought that Richard was dead because of how still he was laying in the kitchen. They think that he was laying so still because there was somebody in the house trying to hurt him, so he was acting like he was dead. When they asked him what happened, he said there was a break-in. The police asked him if he can describe the person, and Richard said it was a tall man in camouflage who had a mask on. He said the intruder broke in and attacked them. He said that he watched the intruder shoot Connie in the basement. So immediately, the police officers went down into the basement, and unfortunately, that's where they found Connie dead of 2 gunshot wounds, one in the stomach and one to the back of the head. And beside Connie, they found a box cutter, a hammer, a butane torch, and some burnt papers. There was also a Ruger 357 Magnum handgun nearby. When the emergency vehicles arrived to help Richard, they freed him from the chair and saw small, shallow cuts on his chest and thighs. So this is when they had canines arrive to the scene, which we love when a pup is involved because they know more than we do. So the dog's job was to pick up scents to try to see what happened to this intruder and where he went. Not just at the scene, but they needed a scent that led away from the scene to, like I said, to see where the intruder went. But instead of tracking a scent away from the crime scene, the dog followed the scent out of the basement, then back into the house. So the officer led the dog away and wanted to try one more time. They initiated a new track to identify a foreign scent at the scene, but this time, the dog tried to climb into the ambulance where Richard had been taken in. So the officers removed the dog and tried a third time. This time in a different spot, trying to find any hidden track. The dog failed to find a single scent leading away from the scene. The dog just followed Richard the whole time. So what they did was they brought a second dog and a third dog, and none of them were able to find a single trace of anybody leaving the scene, which is very suspicious. Richard described the intruder as 6 feet tall at least, stocky, with a deep voice. He actually described him as sounding like Vin Diesel, which I don't know if I would be able to pick that up while somebody was torturing me. But he said he couldn't figure out the skin tone of the person, and he then mentioned again that he was wearing camouflage and wearing gloves. The police were thinking that this happened in daylight in a residential neighborhood. Someone had to have seen or heard something, seen somebody, literally anything. They started canvassing the area and putting up perimeters. This was so that the police could start questioning people driving by the neighborhood. But nobody in the neighborhood saw anything during the time of the intrusion. So at this point, Richard is still in the hospital and he was quickly clear of injuries. He is brought into the station for questioning. And this is where I'm going to end it here. I know that this was kind of short, but I just kind of wanted to split this one up into 2. I wanted to talk about the actual intruder. I wanted to talk about the actual murder that happened. And then in the second part, we're going to dive deep into what actually happened. Now, I want some of you to kind of try to think about this for a little bit. Think about how that story was told, how everything went about, and think about the dogs. So, thank you for listening. I'm going to be posting more on my Instagram when the next episode is coming out, but look for that within the next few days. I'm going to be just touching up a few things on my notes and then recording it and sending it off to Spotify. So again, thank you for listening, and I really hope that you continue to share this and give it a like, give it a little rating. I really appreciate all of you guys so much, and definitely look forward to some videos in the future. Love you guys. Stay spooky.